Well, welcome viewers to the channel. Bit windy today. Hey boys. The wind's up. It's not enough for winging yet, but it might get stronger. I've got to just check something here. Something's not right. Are we right? Yeah, we're filming. This is a bit of an experiment, viewers, but we'll give it a crack. Central Coast Marine Rescue, Central Coast Marine Rescue, Central Coast Marine Rescue. This is CC-130 radio check. Gosford main boat ramp over. Marine Rescue Central Coast, CC-130 will proceed with log on at procedures. CC-130 out. Okay, as I said, viewers, it's pretty rough today. This will be interesting, but there's an old saying, anybody can sail while the sea is calm. Let's get into it. You're with Rev Dr. J.W. Morrison, geologist, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. I really hope this works out, this footage. The weather's going to go bad tomorrow, so we might get some winging in tomorrow with the wind up. There is a possibility that could happen this afternoon. What we'll do, we'll go into the wind to the 2 yellow channel markers, we'll go across the bay, and then we'll go downwind into the bottom of the bay. Thank you for joining me. I listened to a talk by a lady today about aging men, and she was saying by the time they get to 50 they're pretty well done, and I would agree with that. Most men do not look after themselves. They're for the most part just lazy. They haven't tried to develop their health or sustain their health or maintain themselves. Consequently, this has turned around to bite them. Women aren't finding their weakness attractive, but there's a bigger problem than that. The bigger problem is the generation that's coming up now and how they're being disempowered by not having the father, not having the discipline that they need to develop. And it's not, the thing is, it's not being critical of single mothers, but a single mother cannot, and I've said this to these ladies, you cannot be a father. You're not designed to be a father, and I don't think they want to be a father, to be honest. And it's complex because a lot of these young blokes today are weak, and I mean serially weak. They're malignantly weak. They don't want to find their way. They've been given I believe it's from the powers and principalities, there is a dark, passive spirit, a spirit of passivity that comes after young males to sabotage them from finding that power that they have inside themselves to develop themselves the way that they can and should. This programming does work a lot by the powers of principalities and darknesses to use the sinful nature to bring about passivity in the minds and hearts of these young men. It's like a spiritual programming. I believe there's dark principalities and powers that are assigned to find entry into the lives of these young men and program them to be disabled with passivity. This in turn brings depression, anxiety. Anxiety leads to depression, the Bible says. Which then turns them to medications. A lot of these people are already on weed and excessive weed and alcohol. This just deepens the depression, which deepens the need for medication. And then it just goes downhill from there, because once you start adding substances to your psyche, you can end up with sexual problems in terms of you become deviant, because it accelerates your sexual moods and changes your sexual moods. And what I mean by deviancy is you'll become aroused but unable to perform. Aroused but unable to perform. And this causes a tremendous psychological undermining of the person's self-esteem, the young male's self-esteem. We're a bit rough today, viewers. Mountains in the background. A lot of balance involved on days like this. When their self-esteem goes, their self-perception of the fact that they can be powerful, we get bigger problems. If the male's a golden child, self-grandized, pedestalized by the mother or the father, had everything his own way, can attract women. When they do find opportunity with a woman and they're on the alcohol and they're drugged, because they can't perform, because they've got ED, through all the substances and things that they're using, they can get violent with these girls eventually, because they're humiliating themselves and they're going to blame that on the girl, which is an indirect assault on the mother. Because underneath, a lot of these golden mummies boys, mummies boys, young adult mummies boys, they despise their mothers because deep inside they know that the mother has disabled them. And the consequence of this is malfunction in their relationships right across the board. Not just episodes of ED and being unable to become aroused, but psychotic episodes, anger, frustration, conceitedness, all these things that are covert begin to come out. And they have to vent their frustration somewhere, and these things, if these people remain single, can remain dormant. They tend to manifest more so when they're in a relationship or in some kind of intimate association with a female. This will instigate and arouse these covert negative characteristics that are laying latent in the man's soul underneath. These things can be brought about by enmeshment with the mother, who surrogates the son after a breakup in her relationship, primary relationship. She'll surrogate the son. In turn, the son now has access to parts of the mother's life that he ought not, and this brings about with it a sense of lust, a sense of it is lust associated. There is an arousal associated with this as they engage one another. The son does subconsciously believe that he is the authority of the house due to this enmeshment. The mother will share intimate details with him, both positive and negative, as to her relationship, and she ought not. This is abuse. This is emotional incest, which is a serious form now of abuse, and it has been for a while. And this is part of the reason why I mention this as we go downwind now. This is part of the spirit behind the passivity, because the child builds his let me find the word. Sorry, I'm just trying to navigate these runs. He builds his emotional support, intimate support system around the mother. The mother supplies him with a roof over his head and food, and plays the role of a mini wife of the wife. She shifts her duty as wife from the usually beleaguered, narcissistic, alcoholic, drug addict husband, or whatever the case might have been, lazy, forlorn, aging, narcissistic husband. She'll collude with the sons. There could be any combination, but we'll just focus on the golden child. The golden child will become confused, but eventually buy into it, because the feminine spirit has a way of undermining the masculine in a domestic situation, because the feminine is the rescuer while the masculine is the discipliner. And once the feminine spirit begins to undermine the masculine direction for the child, and the child begins to accept this, I'm not going to accept. Ooh. Oh, that's a log. I thought it was a unfriendly, but it's a log. As the child yields now to the feminine rebellious spirit that's going to push the authority of the husband out, and it could be legitimate. A lot of these men, once they hit 45 and they've drunk and smoked themselves to 45, they're really not good for much. The children begin to side with the mother to get rid of the dysfunctional father, if the family gets this far. So now you have a child that, by way of the feminine authority of the mother, has now her authority to execute whatever he can to get rid of the husband. So they collude and collaborate, they strategize, they make up stories. The son becomes feminine and starts to whinge like a woman about the father. In the end, the father just packs his bags and goes. He's not wanted. The mother then shifts her attention and her intimate connection to the golden child, and she reward him for his work in colluding and collaborating with her emotionally, intimately. And now that the father's gone, there's a deeper connection between the mother and the son. And believe me, the father's fully aware of what's happened. He may come and go for some months after that, just out of the momentum of the relationship. He'll come back, pump and dump the mother. This will stir up the son and cause more confusion for him, because he's been under the impression that mummy don't want him around. Well, mummy doesn't want him around, but mummy's got needs too that the son can't meet. But when the father goes, there is an air of lust. There is this evil air of lust, and that's what these principalities and powers want to have happen. They want the son and the mother to become intimate. Now this all comes down to conscience. But let me say, if there's alcohol and drugs initiated in the son by generational passing down through the parents, because a lot of these people are substance dependent, the stars could align and things could get a little bit too close for comfort between the mother and the son, but no one will ever know. Now let me say, emotional incest grandizes the mother and the son. Full-blown sexual incest demoralizes the mother and the son. So there's no easy way on the other side of the act. And it causes terrible confusion, mental contortion. You have to be a mental contortionist if you think you can get out of that one unscathed. They don't. If there's other siblings involved, it usually doesn't come to this because there's too many eyes, and these people aren't stupid. If things getting too friendly, people can tell. That's why it usually goes to deep, serial, malignant, narcissistic, emotional incest. Now, my experience with these single mums is the golden child realizes, whether he be an adult in his high teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, the pedestalized golden child understands that mummy needs a man to satisfy her. Now, sometimes the mum will demonstrate the possibility of intimacy with the golden child by hooking up with younger men. Okay? Now this will be alarming to the adult children, especially the ones engaged in the emotional incest, but it will also sway the mind underneath if the mother's bringing home younger men or being caught flirting with younger men. This will stir the mind of the golden child through the emotional incest to lust after the mother. There'll be an element of lust for the mother. They'll start to brush up against the mother. If the mother's sitting down on the lounge watching TV, they'll lay on the lounge with their head in the mother's lap. The mother will broom their forehead with her palm. They roll and face the mother's stomach. These are adult young men. And it gets very intimate, but doesn't cross the line. They'll come up behind the mother in the kitchen and cup her from behind with their hands under the breasts. They'll kiss and smell the mother's neck. The mother will call the son babe, doll, my little hottie, my little husband, my little man, my man. And there's all these unorderly hints and suggestions around intimacy. And believe you me, this gets the blood going in the son, the golden child. He's no different to any other man, mother or not. And now with no male around, alcohol and drugs and medications, anything's possible. They become sarcastic, conceited. They teach each other to hate outsiders, which causes confusion when outsiders come in to the fold. Particularly, they're only coming in to be used for sex. I know because I've experienced it on several occasions. And when the mother or the son has satisfied themselves with the company of the outsider, they'll re-collaborate themselves. They'll regroup in the house and they'll celebrate one another. And this becomes a domestic formation. And you'll never ever get past it. It's just how it is. You'll begin to feel emotionally starved. You will struggle mentally trying to work out what's going on. My daughter from Europe just flew in from Europe. She explained to me that she said it's like putting your money in a poker machine. You'll put 100 in and you'll get 20 cents back. That's what it's like to be in a relationship with these covert emotional incestual people. You're putting your 100 in, but they're only giving 20 cents back. I know, I have experienced this. Their devotion and loyalty is in the tribe. It's not with you. You're just a means of supply. That's why it's narcissistic. It'll always start off covert and it will go malignant, because if you look like you're a good source of supply, in my case to the mother, and the son's enmeshed, he'll degenerate. His attitude and behaviour will degenerate. And it'll degenerate to such a point that you won't be able to stay around. I mean, it's a complete psychological breakdown. It's a collapse. Because they cannot stand witnessing the mother making emotional and intimate exchanges with somebody else because of the enmeshment, the emotional incest. And this is, I'm saying all this because this is what psychologically drives them into a passive state. They need therapy, they need help. They're now psychologically disrupted, distorted, fragmented. They can't come to terms with the betrayal. How can mum do this to me with this stranger? I'm her favourite. I'm her man. She told me that. Now she's with a stranger. How does that? No, you're betraying me. And you get this terrible, horrible series of psychological collapses. I've witnessed it with my own two eyes. I've shown these mothers, I've shown their sons degenerating right in front of their eyes. And they've said to me, I've never seen this before. They have. They lie. They know their sons better than anybody else, as if a stranger could come along and pick out something that they haven't seen before. So what will happen is you'll start to be treated with hostility by the golden child. You'll sit and have talk with. I've sat and talked with them, gone to places with them, you know, played a sensible, mature role. But that doesn't change what's going on in underneath. It's all covert. But now, hey boys, good to see yous out. Better than sitting at home. Good on you guys. Good to see the young boys out having a fish. And this spirit now has access through the emotional enmeshment to start driving the mind of this young man into the ground. And they do it fast. Through the authority that they have via the abuse of the enmeshment, the emotional incest. And I've seen these guys as addicts, alcoholics, on medications, trying to push around this authority that they think they have, right? But it's only a fantasy because it's given to the mother. It's not their proper role. It's given by the mother. Excuse me. It's not their proper position. So it's the fantasy. And again, this is what brings it to the narcissistic. This is where narcissism is related to emotional incest. It's the fantasy between the mother and the son. You're my husband and I'm your wife. And you'll see the mother doing everything she can to play her part in that. She'll run around doting on them or him. She'll dote on him. She'll run after him. He'll command her and she'll yield. And this is all to the detriment of themselves. They think they're each other's therapists. They have these private conversations. It is sickening. It is so dysfunctional, it makes you sick. I've walked out of the houses of these people and they bring me up and they've gone, what have you left for? And I'm thinking, they haven't got a clue because they're very self-unaware. All that matters is what they're doing for themselves. That's all that matters. That song by Metallica, nothing else matters. And they'll try and be genuine in a relationship with you, and it'll be like guiding a child. You'll find that at the start you're constantly making corrections, you're constantly asking for them to, can you step up your game here, can you step up your game there? It's constant. The reason for that is you're just a source of supply, and if you disappear, they'll find anyone. They've already got most of their supply sorted through the emotional enmeshment. If you find, as we come in, that you're in an emotional incestual environment, right, it's no good you talking to these people. Once you realise that, you've got to make a serious choice. Am I going to be a slave to this sin and cop all its crap? Or am I going to walk away? Take it from my experience. It's not about whether these people are good or bad or otherwise. You need to walk away. Because the DNA bond, right, is going to send that golden child out of his mind to such an extent, the hostility that will come towards you could end up anywhere. I've had two of these mothers lock the bedroom doors. It's gotten so bad, they've locked the bedroom doors before we've gone to sleep at night. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, well, that says it all, doesn't it? And you just spectate and you watch these people disintegrate. And I've seen these mothers try and stay in the relationship with me, but they can't. It just wears away at them. After my last episode, that's it. I'm not even going to take one day of it. I'm too old. I got too much going on, and I know by experience, not by reading books, by experience. I've put time into this with several women and their little glorified, grandiosed, narcissistic sons. You won't beat it, because it's DNA orientated, DNA facilitated, DNA protected, DNA sustained, DNA maintained, and you're just an outsider. If your supply's good, they'll keep coming around until you tell them to fuck off. And sorry for using that language, but that's where you're going to get to. They'll run you down to the point where you just say to them, would you please? They'll lie to you in the end. They'll blame you for any disruptions that they're experiencing. You can't win. You need to walk away. Emotional incest is probably one of the most savage spirits that I've ever seen. It's a spirit that can't remain covert. It will go overt. It has to get rid of you. And if the woman sticks by you, that doesn't change what's going on behind the scenes. It just shows that what you're giving is obviously worth the trouble that she's going to get it, because those children or the golden child behind the scenes would be giving her hell. Absolute hell. So I hope that's helped. If so, subscribe, like or share. We're at Gosford on the Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for joining me, and bye for now.